in this very moment, in a lot of ways, I mentioned podcasts being a cult, you're being brainwashed and indoctrinated with our beliefs just because you're listening to them in incredible high quality.
How does it feel? Feel good? Feel dirty? Feel a little weird? Us in your brain right now?
You're seeing us happy as hell talking to you. You want to be happy as hell.
Yeah.
You know, you want someone to talk to you, I assume.
Hopefully.
All right, Matt and I are going to talk about 4 different things today. First of which, on my mind, at least, is going to be religion and church. What's on your mind, Matt?
I'm going to talk about the new internet of anger.
Welcome to the Neverending.
That was so quick.
So that means something hard to work and my own thing, not chasing the Chico ring. Gotta have it, never a lot of fucking fun for love and never ending. Becoming.
All right, well, we got through 2 of them, which is
That was
not bad.
Quick 20 seconds.
Just to do the other 2 quickly, I also want to talk about affirmation. I think I used to use the word brainwashing a lot, in terms of get media brainwashing. But what I've learned is basically positive or maybe negative affirmations. What's the 4th thing on your mind?
The real metaverse.
The actual metaverse.
Not this newfangled bullshit. The real metaverse.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm seriously happy to be talking with you, Matt.
It's a pleasure.
Let's get right into the first topic.
Yeah,
religion,
totally.
church. You know, you were using the word spirituality earlier. There's a lot of ways this can go.
Yeah,
a lot of different directions this can go. I'm going to start the clock on us. We're trying to come up with some innovations here on the show, the channel. Trying to make sure we're innovating.
It's literally never-ending becoming. So if we start becoming, we got problems here. We got to keep changing. That's my opinion.
You got to at least stay literal to your branding. That's my idea.
Right.
But I'm always thinking about religion and church and how a lot of times people have taken all this energy that historically went to the pulpit or something and now is being put into maybe Elon as everyone's pope. Maybe that's going into cryptocurrency because people want something to believe in and want like a purpose in life. And it's just complicated because it's happening so fast. It seems like people are willing to put their faith into things that really don't deserve it.
I would agree with
Right?
that. 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like, you know, your options are different too. Your options are changing, right? Church is not as sexy as it used to be. You know, the idea of like God or religion, blah, blah, blah. That's not as sexy anymore. You know, there's so many...
Why is that?
Well, you know, I think people...
It just seem old school? Is it just like any like media or brand thing where it's like, that's what my parents did, so that's not me?
My grandma goes to church, so, you know, I'm not into that, you know. Well, not my grandma, but you know what I mean. Yeah, bad joke. Terrible joke. But, you know, it's like, I feel like it is like a more of an old school type thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of times people's are more individuals now. You know, the idea that you're an individual. And if you go to church, you're part of this, you know, you're not an individual anymore. I don't know.
Maybe I shouldn't be so harsh on people. Maybe it's just that people now do have options.
I'm going to stop you right there. Be harsh on people. Be exceptionally harsh on people.
I think that's what the first 2 years of the podcast were for, is us being exceptionally harsh on people. Yeah. But no, I mean, you can't blame a young person for wanting to look up to someone like Elon as their pope, what have you.
Absolutely.
I mean, probably better than the current pope. Or
the current pope's pretty not a bad guy. You know, I'm not. The Catholic Church is pretty fucking evil.
You might be specific. There's 2 popes, though, right?
There's 2 popes?
Isn't there still a living pope?
Oh, yeah,
John Paul
I'm sorry, yeah.
and Francis?
Ratzenberger. Great name for a pope. Ratzenberger, right? Most evil name for a pope.
Ratzenberger? What are you talking about? Isn't it Pope Francis and John Paul?
Yeah, no, it's right. His real name, Benedict. Pope Benedict's real name was Ratzenberger.
See, maybe they're having a branding issue. That's why current religions are failing.
Pope Francis, though, he's a good guy. I can't remember him. But see, I don't remember his name. Pope Francis is real before he was anointed. I don't remember his real name. I just know him as Pope Francis.
To bring it close to home specifically for me, I feel like podcasts have become my religion.
Ooh, yeah.
Because, again, I'm being so harsh on other people, whatever, not realizing like, yo, James, you have this with podcasts.
Right.
You like idolize these people who create this content and then who create these videos, more often create these audio files or audio moments where people are able to divulge who they are, who they can be, who maybe you could be. So like it's been really useful lately to think about how I've kind of gotten into the cult of podcasting in a way. And that's like my route. I'm not a Bitcoin guy.
I guess if the idea of church is trying to make you your best person, your best self, like that's what podcasts are, right? In some ways, you want to listen to podcasts to help you become your best self. I mean, some people just listen to them as like a diversionary tactic, you know, like your hour of diversion. But some people literally listen to podcasts and they get things out of it and it makes them a better person, you know? And they dogmatically listen to their favorite people weekly, right? And then they shape their lives around the decisions that some of these podcasters make, right? I definitely, literally, Joey Diaz is the church of what's happening now, right?
I was thinking about that. I know you like Joey Diaz.
Oh, I love
too.
Joey Diaz, Uncle Joey, tremendous.
Yeah, how did I not realize this earlier? He just called his podcast The Church of What's Happening Now.
Yeah.
That's what all podcasts are.
Literally.
Great name, by the way.
Phenomenal name.
Fantastic
Now
name.
he's Uncle Joey's joint. The Church of What's Happening Now, he's over with that podcast when he moved to the East Coast. But still, I appreciate the name.
He looked at the cannabis legalization numbers, the demographics. He saw that was going to be better for his brand moving forward.
Yeah, right. He wanted to raise his daughter. He wanted to go home to Jersey and raise his daughter. That was his real reason.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that was it. He wanted to go closer to us. He's realized that he's not getting any younger. He's getting older. And so he needed to leave, his church of comedy, right, which is what it was in the West Coast for him, is the comedy and all that stuff. And then he realized his new belief system needed to be based around his daughter, and then that became his. So he went to the East Coast to be closer to family, so he could raise his daughter in his life, where he grew up and that kind of thing.
I think if you're at his age, you don't realize how important family is. You have lost it. I mean, a lot of times the religion piece is about having a clan, having a tribe,
Family, community,
and. Yeah, sure. It used to be in a pew. Now it's in a Discord channel or, like I said, a podcast.
Zoom room,
download
a
group.
Zoom meeting.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, it's a tough transition. It's been a little bit awkward, especially I mentioned because of the type of charlatans that can come out of nowhere and that people can follow.
I mean, we were literally led, in my opinion, by one of the biggest cults I've ever seen or experienced, which is the cult of Trump, right?
We went a long time without saying that. And actually, that wasn't the thing at the forefront of my mind.
It
but
wasn't.
The cult of personality around Donald J. Trump is immense. I mean,
Insane.
It transcended political lines, right? I mean, it transcended age because, I mean, he had like younger fans that I think were just as into trolling as they were into Trump.
I don't feel like we can talk about it in the past tense because we still are seeing so much of this just still permeate everything.
Yeah, why did I even say Elon? Trump is the bigger one, right? If you had to put one on the left, it would be Elon. One on the right would be Trump. But
even Trump is not, or even Elon's not super left anymore.
Yeah.
He's extremely right. I think the left would be probably maybe Bernie or AOC.
Yes.
They're Andrew Yang. He's more centrist, but like if we're talking political figures and cult of personalities, the Bernie bros. Bernie was pretty big, had a pretty good group around him, big group. I wouldn't say good. Well, good, whatever.
Can I give you a couple like who's a bigger cult leader right now? Who's a bigger modern like preacher? AOC or Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan.
Joe's huge.
And I think it's I would even say it's unintentional. Like it's almost like who me? I'm not. I'm just a comedian, But then in the back of his mind now, he knows what he's. For a long time, I don't think he really dismissed his place in society, and I think he did it humbly. And
I think the humble leader is very important.
Yeah. But now I think he knows what he is, and he continues to play this humble card, and it doesn't quite work anymore. In my opinion.
I was just thinking another realm we can go into YouTubers. PewDiePie is probably a major leader, a thought leader for a lot of young people. He's very humble. He also shares that characteristic. He's like, I guess that's like a Swedish thing too, not to be too braggadocious and flashy with your lifestyle, your beliefs.
Skull. Yeah, honestly though, you're 100% right. And it's interesting too because he has a youth. His is all a part of the youth. A lot of the people we're talking about are more, people that are like, 20s and 30s, PewDiePie is straight like young, middle school age, even high school age, internet, the new internet culture of kids,
Yeah, and that's amazing. I think he's got 100 million subscribers, and I mean, I don't know. There's got to be some 60, 70, 80-year-olds that watch him, whatever. But you're pointing out it is largely young people. And Trump too. I mentioned like he hit every age, but he's probably more older folks. Like if you had to get the young men of the world, you'd probably go for PewDiePie. The older men, you'd probably go for Trump, right?
It's interesting though what happened in the college campuses and stadiums, that Let's Go Brandon chant. You know what I mean? That's a very interesting phenomenon, and it's all 20-somethings pushing this. You know what I mean?
Well, you want to have like inside jokes. You want to have chants.
That's totally what it is.
Like I can't say any Gregorian chants off of memory here from church.
Yeah, no.
But in peace, let us pray to the Lord. All that stuff. I don't know if Thank you, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Instead of fuck Joe Biden, it's become let's go, Brandon.
It doesn't hit as hard for me. I don't think that's as good necessarily.
And I think it's funnier too because some people are just saying it not even knowing what it means. They just think, oh, let's go, Brandon. It's funny. You know what I mean? You know?
Absolutely. It has to be appealing.
Fine. Yeah.
You want to like join the party, not just political party. You want to join like the fucking fun party.
Yes.
You know?
That's the whole aspect of the cult. You have the secret information. The secret information that's going to make you better than the other people who don't know that secret information.
Mm-hmm.
There's
QAnon.
QAnon. I was going to say the Pizzagate. You look at anti-vaxxers now, flat earthers, the Church of Flat Earth, you know.
People just are dying for a life.
Mm-hmm.
And again, not being judgmental. Well, you know, a little bit. I'm sorry.
I'm being judgmental. Fuck these people.
But like, I feel it too. So I'm trying to make sense of it, again, through the lens of the podcast fanatic.
Yes, sure.
Let me give you a couple more. Who would you rather listen to the preacher of? Or who's bigger, right? Who's bigger? Bernie Sanders or Joey Coco Diaz?
Oh my gosh. I love both of them for different reasons, and I would love to see a podcast with the two of them. That would be blow my mind. I would say Bernie's got a bigger audience.
Yeah, for sure about that one. For sure about that. Do you have one you could think of or no? I can give you two, like another set here quickly.
Yeah, give me another set.
Who is more of like a leader, whatever, Vladimir Putin or Javier Bolsonaro?
Ah, Jesus. I would say, that's kind of probably Putin, right?
I would totally agree. What's your reason?
Putin. Wow, I just had like a lot of feelings. Probably Putin is still in charge of one of the largest economies on the planet.
He swings a bigger stick.
But I think too he is a lot more insidious with his control. You know, the idea like what's going on in Ukraine. He's just so
got a dirtier dick.
Shady. He's just so shady, and the way he controls things is just so. You know.
I was just gonna say because he makes such compelling visuals with him shirtless all the time on camera. I feel like that alone puts you like well over the top because this is such a visual era we're living through.
10 years ago, my Facebook profile picture was him shirtless and
no shit, dude. You were ahead of something on that.
Fishing. Yeah, it was like 10 years ago because he was fishing, and I used to love those because I thought they were so funny because it was in my mind it was all propaganda. You know what I mean? But like. The Russian people would eat that up.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, okay, I know you're like signaling and all this stuff. And it's funny, you know, that like you're my world leader and you're going to hear shirtless like fly fishing. And like this just shows me I'm a bigger man than all these other leaders. And I like appreciated it.
That's true because even if you think it's corny or it's like he's being a goon, like there's something that still can be funny about that.
Absolutely.
You can still laugh.
You have to.
10 years ago, that's a long time.
It's probably like 10 years ago. Yeah. Because I haven't been on Facebook in a long time. And this was, you know.
This is pre-Russiagate.
Oh yeah.
Known election fraud.
It was well before 2016.
Yeah.
2016. When he was he was never a joke, but when it was just like, oh, Russia, you know, they hadn't invaded Crimea yet. You know, they were still kind of like, you know, hanging out after the Cold War. You know, I guess not really. This is in the 2010s, but not as big of a threat. You know, they weren't as threatening as it feels like they are now.
Yeah.
Where they're actively trying to constantly undermine what's going on, you know?
Are there any other...
Oh, I had a good one. Occult,
please.
Kanye.
God, that's such a good one.
Yeah. And then I was trying to think of another fashion person like that, or like Drake. You know what I mean? Who's got a bigger cult? But
that's a fantastic comparison. We didn't even talk about musicians. This is huge with musicians. You know, the Bieber heads, what have you. I'm a Kanye guy myself. I'm from the city of Chicago. I don't know if I even would legally be able to say Drake in you know Toronto's very own.
Absolutely.
I got to go with Kanye.
Yeah.
I think he has better music. I think he is more of an artist. I think he's pushed more boundaries. Frankly, I think he created the lane that Drake has been driving in with 808s and heartbreaks.
Yeah. Yes. And he's more cult-like too. His like behavior is a lot more interesting.
Oh, the Sunday service. I mean, he was like selling cult-looking clothing, you know,
yeah,
like
absolutely. And that was part of it too, is like to have the Yeezy brand, you know, like you have a very different style. Living like he literally cloistered himself like a monk in the Atlanta Stadium while he was making his album, right? Like literally like a monk, you know. And then the stuff with his masks, and he's so performative in his behavior.
Highly performative. He also is way better at marketing. And right now, if you want to be famous, you have to be great at marketing. It's like a spectacle machine first, and then it's like quality content second. Really,
100%.
That's why Javier Bolsonaro. We don't even know anything about him. I mean, 10 years ago, you were
Yeah, absolutely.
You yourself were projecting photos of him to your Facebook friends.
Well, Putin has also been around a lot longer than Bolsonaro. And Bolsonaro, though, he's getting a lot of play right now because of what he's doing to the environment and how, he modeled himself after Trump, right? A lot of these Latin American guys saw what Trump was doing, and they're like, well, we want to be just like that guy. You know what I mean? Because, again, that's that cult of personality is very attractive,
Playbook has been used many times.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, connection between Elon and Trump, I think Elon is borrowing from Trump's playbook constantly with, I don't want to say media manipulation, but
media affirmation.
So media, thank you for pushing we're coming up there. For like using the media, facilitating the media, almost like
using it as a tool.
What's that type of, it's not karate, but the type of martial arts where you use someone's strength against them?
Judo.
Judo?
Judo.
Yeah, it's just like that with media. You got to take the camera and point it.
This is the media, the fist is coming, and then Elon just takes it and twists the leg and then flips it over his shoulder. And you're like, oh, and then he's like, I got you. My stock is going up now.
You did mention the element about Putin being around a lot longer. I feel like that is something too.
Longevity.
Because that's one of the reasons church is still around, will always be around, will always have followers, because some things are like perpetual motion machines. There's just enough people on earth, and there's enough room for people at the table of discussion for them to just exist. Like the Catholic Church is not going to go away. And even like our movie stars, a lot of times it's like the children of movie stars are the ones who become famous in the next movies. Paul Thomas Anderson is releasing a movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman's son.
I saw that.
Did you see that?
I didn't see the movie, but I saw that he's releasing the movie.
Yeah, and now...
How about your boy, the Many Saints of Newark, and James Gandolfini's son literally playing himself? How crazy is that?
Yeah, exactly. Sopranos. I'm a Sopranos cult guy, no doubt about it. No one can ever replace Paulie Walnuts, but apparently, they can replace James Gandolfini with his own son in the movie.
Yeah. Well, it's blood to blood, so it works, right?
You have to be realistic though about like name recognition, like brand recognition, and that's why I think it's pretty obvious all of Trump's kids are going to probably have some sort of life after him.
Oh yeah.
Right. Even if it's like faltering over time and not quite as robust as he has been, like they're always going to have a brand and an option to keep poking that. They got the
last name, and again, they have seen the playbook of their father, and they use that playbook, and they try to better it and try to, you know what I mean? But they're all on Twitter, they're all on Twitter saying the stuff that their dad wishes they could say because he's not on Twitter.
Yeah, you almost just have to keep repackaging what was there before. Like mentioned James Gandolfini's son.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact I was watching interviews and stuff how the movie was made. Like he would try to replicate movements that he did and little gestures and small things that would help you connect probably in a much bigger way considering people were watching Gandolfini 20 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We took our time on this. What do you got next? You want to hit us with the next one?
Well, this we could actually tie right into is the internet of anger, right? Is like because you have in your churches and all that stuff, you feel protective of them, and then you get angry when people, try to take them down a peg. But I think it's a broader issue. I'm very curious at this new spate of anger that I feel like is driving parts of this country, whether it be class problems with money and inflation, or even just people on airplanes, at how rageful people are getting on airplanes.
Yeah.
Which is just so fascinating to me, is things we'd never see before. People doing things like just fighting or spitting on people in airplanes. And you're just like, where's this behavior coming from that you think this is an okay thing to bring about in society? Watched a video yesterday of a guy getting shot by another guy in a situation, and it was so much was fueled by anger, and it's like senseless death, there's so much anger, and I don't quite understand it.
Let's try to break it down a little bit. You mentioned watching the video of someone being shot. Direct tie into Putin's appeal is the visual element, like world star hip hop, being able to see videos of fighting now
constantly.
This is, of course, all in the wake of YouTube removing the dislike button. Things are getting so bad out there. YouTube has to stop us from disliking things.
Super dicey.
So much.
That was such a side note. That's such a an advertiser thing. You know what I mean? Because advertisers putting ads don't want their videos to be disliked.
Is that what that is?
The Pepsi commercial with Kylie Jenner was one of the most disliked videos ever on YouTube.
But
like
this is
so you take it away, and now Pepsi's like, oh, see, it's likes. There's no dislikes. You can't tell.
So we barely even talked about like the rage of the internet, and we've already found the answer. Advertisers are going to help us get out of the rage of the internet. It's going to be a profit motive, of course.
Of course.
So you were dead on with that. So this is great. We can work backwards. So now we know that conduciveness to advertising is going to be the thing that gets us out of this.
Always.
But what got us into this exactly? Do you think it's just awareness because there's easy video, there's easy audio of the anger, or is it actually more anger?
I think you kind of it's affirming. It's okay to be angry when you're constantly inundated by videos of other people being angry. I think it's really interesting sometimes when you see so many videos online and you don't exactly know what to expect when you see it. And like I didn't know that video I was going to see was ending with that guy getting shot. It was like, oh, it's an altercation. They're battling over a gun. Boom, the guy's dead. And I was like, holy shit, I just saw a murder. And it's like, and then it made me kind of like, wow, never in our history. Well, that's not necessarily true because people used to watch like public executions and stuff like that.
That's true.
But not to the degree where like I could sit on the internet right now and watch hours of people being beaten up or murdered or like all of this stuff. The ease in which I can see horrible imagery that's constantly flooding, it's like
You can make a whole life out of it. Yeah, you can never get out of that section of
that could
media.
become your church, violent videos.
I mean, Bravo, which is like the biggest channel for women, isn't it like people fighting every fucking second?
The Real Housewives, man, it's all drama. It's all manufactured drama.
Yeah, not to just be too simple here and like say it's rotting our brain, because I think the positive side of it is like we're watching that stuff like in a way to make peace with the fights we have in our own life, right? So I think there is a good reason people do watch that stuff.
Yeah.
But it is troubling to me that so much of it is rooted in the nastiness, because I'd take one public execution, one decapitation a week over 5 episodes of The Real Housewives a week. I mean, I think that would do less to my brain.
So going back to what you said about advertisements, you get more engagement over drama.
Yeah, that's right.
There's so much more engagement over that kind of stuff. And again, it's like, oh, look at them. My life's not like that. But man, is it fun to watch their lives be absolutely chaotic.
Okay, you're helping me out here. So maybe the engagement comes from the whole risk aversion thing. Like humans are obsessed about not dying because you can only die once.
Yeah.
Which means you have to actually, in a way, evolutionarily, you have to focus on the negative or the problems or the anger so you can avoid it.
Well, I think that's a lot of it, right?
Yeah, that's got to be something.
You want to see it. You want to see it because it's fascinating, because like consequences, but also you don't want it in your neck of the woods necessarily, me personally. But then again, we're seeing things like, just crazy like fights and anger and things that you're just like, why is this why? Like it just feels like so crazy. I keep going back to the airplane stuff. I keep seeing all of these videos of people just being absolute animals on airplanes, whether they don't want to wear their masks or whether they're just unhappy. I watched a video a couple weeks back of this guy just destroying the ticket area. He picked up like the stanchion and was like swinging it around and just like, you want to fight, you want to fight, you want to fight. And I was just like, you're in public, man. Like not only are you in public, but like, do you know what year it is? It's 2021. There's like 5 cameras on you right now. Like, how do you think you're going to recover from this? Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't understand the
Well, it's confusing to people because I think a lot of times we accidentally give praise to people who do horrible things. Classic example being the Boston bomber being on the cover of Rolling Stone. Like, we'll take someone who does an atrocity and we'll talk about them forever.
Right.
Similar to how like Hitler is like still one of the most famous names. What's now a couple generations after his existence. Right?
You don't see many Adolfs out there. It's good. You
can ruin mustaches, names, everything. But you brought up flying. A lot of times someone's going on a trip of it. Hopefully they're going on a vacation, or maybe they're going to see a loved one. You think that would be a time in their life where they're happy and they're excited and they're spending all this money at least, right, to be doing something. Obviously that could make things seem more extreme, and maybe that can make you act out because there's like pressure involved in that. But why so much fighting there? I mean,
I just don't understand.
How about this? How about maybe it has to do with not just the negative stuff like replicating on top of each other or reverberating. Maybe it has to do with the positive too. Like the fact that we see rich people's lives now on Instagram, and we see how good some people have it.
And we got to sit in fucking TSA lines.
Right.
Someone's grabbing my crotch. Someone's taking my freedoms away right now, right? And you have to put up with a lot of other people's bullshit, right?
Yeah, everyone's happy with their $40,000 car until they see their neighbor's $50,000 car.
Absolutely.
You know, it could, by comparative sense, make it have less value than it absolutely should, considering what you're giving for it.
Grass isn't always greener syndrome. Yeah, I think
The private jet photos are what's ruining TSA pre-check, or you mentioned the ticket counter that was destroyed. Maybe even the people that are rolling through, they don't even have tickets. They're just showing their iPhone, scanning their iPhone,
right, that's what we
walking
do.
by.
I think, too, a big component of this is being locked down for a year and a lot of tensions running high. And now we're seeing a lot of people cutting loose a little bit more than they would have. They've been restricted in a lot of ways. And now it's like you have your freedoms back, and no one's going to take those freedoms away from me again, And I think people feel like their rights or their are being impinged upon, right? Like, I'm a free American. You can't tell me I can't get on this plane because I'm not wearing a mask, yada, 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 right? You can't tell me what to do, and it's like, actually, we can tell you what to do. So much of it is like that, right? Like, no, sir, you have to wear your masks. No, sir, you can't get on this plane with this alcohol,
Yeah, really hard not to bring up the fact that Trump basically became president by doing and saying what he wanted, quote unquote, right? Or at least giving the perception that he's someone who
destroying societal
was more
norms.
Self-centered.
Yeah, destroying societal norms. He's great at destroying societal norms. That's like a big thing he's great at. Of being like, oh, well, I don't have to do that thing, whether he makes fun of like disabled people in front of a giant crowd, or has sex with porn stars on his pregnant wife, there's all sorts of things I can name that he has done that people are like accepting of, and like, oh, it's okay because it's just that's just the way it is for that guy. And I think then that permeates, what him being the president. He was the president of the United States. And I think sometimes people don't quite, it's easy to be like, oh, Trump, Trump, Trump. But he held the highest office of the land. And there's something to be said for the power that office exudes, right?
Yeah.
And how it's like, oh, well, the president does it. We can do it. So I think that, like, if he can be an angry, person who is like constantly undercutting people and getting his way no matter the costs, well, I can do that too, because look that's how he got to where he is, and he's leading the country. I mean, I hate to always bring it back to that guy.
No, Trumpy see, Trumpy do. I think we're
hopefully Trumpy get in trouble too.
I think we're definitely just copying what we see a lot. There's something there.
Model behavior. You model that behavior. A lot of that, and then if you want to go back to church, that's what church was. Model this behavior in your life so that, you will be a better person. Like, that's how, controlling society, right? That's how you had to control society.
I'm trying to think now, like, looking into not just what influences we get from outside, but what it is like within me that makes me angry, to be perfectly honest. I feel like a lack of control upsets me. 100%. I don't know if it's because like I perceive myself to be needing control, wanting to be a control freak, whatever. But maybe that's part of it too. Like, I don't know if you have your own reasons for like what gets under your skin, whatever. But I feel like a lot of times if you feel like something's out of your control, which this last Corona thing, this COVID thing has been horrible for people with that mindset, because it's a reminder that not to say there's very little under your control, but there are certain things only that you can control, and even then, influence might be a better word, or contribute to. Like, even the word choice I think matters, because you can set something up that's too defeating. But I feel like I do get testy when my sense of control is stripped away. Always. And that's something that's been going up and up and up, right? I mean,
I think too, when, like you just said, when you've had loss of control for a full year, it makes that all the more like hypersensitive to it. You know what I mean? Like, you've literally had to give up rights for a full year, whether you agree with the reasoning behind it or not. You've done it, and so now you might be a little bit more wary or aware of those feelings and those thoughts, right? Like the ceding control. I've already done this. I'm not doing this again. I don't. What more do you want from me? Like, you've locked me in my house for over a year, and now you're going to try to make me do this, and you're going to make me do this. Not in fucking America, like that rage. And I do think Americans in general have a bug in their bonnet when it comes to like freedoms and that kind of stuff.
I know that I mentioned being a control freak, but it's definitely an American thing of me.
But I think there's a lot of being one to control and all that stuff. That's I think natural, right? Because there is so many things moving around in the world. You want to have a modicum of control over situations, you know. And but yeah, being an American, it's like it's different. I think it's different.
We get the illusion that we can control things, at least because we have more affluence. You know, when you have more money, you have more options, and then it feels like you can exert more pathways in the world, that you can do more things.
Again, money, capitalism, that's a very American idea. With money brings power, right?
Quickly about the airlines too.
Yeah.
I was thinking like what's specific about airlines. You know how they've like gone from having like 2 or 3 groups, like boarding groups, to having like 6? There's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G now. Like there's like so many different ones. Maybe
Again,
that's part of the problem.
Class structure. They've created class structure. So you poor people got to wait to the very, very end to get on the flight. No, that's not what it is. But yes, you're right. You know, but that's again trying to make it easy because people want to cut the fucking line. You know, oh, you're in group 4. Oh, group 1. Oh, let me just go in with this group. It's like, no, dude, you have to wait in line.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're being controlled more.
Exactly.
We keep hearing about wealth inequality. Why aren't there just 2 boarding groups? The 1% and
First
the 99%.
Class, yeah, first class.
Let's just call it what it is.
The
you know
first
what I
class
mean?
and the rest. Oh, and then you can even sign up for the pre-boarding where like, oh, I'm in this special group. So I get in this other line that nobody's in. And then I get on the first group. And then you can go group 1, right?
Yeah.
Any of our preferred TSA flyers, you know?
I brought up TSA pre-check.
Yeah, pre-check.
It happens so many times before you even get to the plane.
And how mad are you?
You get splintered.
When you're sitting in the security line that you've been in for 20 minutes and some person just casually walks around, gets in the line, and then just goes right on the plane. You're like, that motherfucker. They're cutting me. They think they're better than me. Again, you know what I mean? Like and I know that they're not. They're just more well prepared and they just don't want to sit in lines like a fucking pleb like me. But, you know, like ultimately it's like there's some rage inducing there. The airport is very rage inducing. I would, you know, feeling sexually assaulted. Like I remember going in a TSA check and, you know, got the baggy pants and then you stand in the thing and then they think that I got a thing. So they pull me to the side and he's just going up and down my looking for something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow. And people are watching me and I'm literally standing with my hands up and someone's rubbing my genitals in the airport. Like, how humiliating is that? You know what I mean? And I'm just like, cool, like, you know, I just have to experience this in an airport. I'll never forget that feeling of like literally feeling like I was sexually assaulted in front of a group of people.
Right, and this is after years too of indignities like taking off your shoes. And even like there's almost something.
Shoes, belt, jacket, wallet.
Right.
You have to undress.
Of course, someone rifling through your belongings. That's just a given at this point. But you mentioned like it feels like gross because like someone's touching you or whatever. Like it's also insanely gross to be put in an X-ray machine. Like what's worse, to have to be like groped by an hourly paid employee or to have some machine like shoot radiation like into your fucking bones?
I mean, they basically see a naked picture of me. Right? Like it really outlines your body. So you literally stand there, they see the whole thing. And it's just like, this feels gross. This feels gross to me.
Right.
I never feel more like cattle. I never feel more just disgusted than flying. And actually for a good 2 or 3 years, I wasn't flying. Like I just said, I'm not flying. My fiance, her family's from New York. So we'd have to go to New York a couple times a year. And there just was a good time period. And I think it was actually after the incident. I just was like, I'm done flying. I don't want to fly anymore. I don't want to be in airports anymore. I'm done. So it's like 2 or 3 years. But then eventually I want to see my family in New York. So I go and I get on the plane and it's fine. But, you know, I just didn't want to participate in it.
We talked about the rage of like airports and flying. We've talked about like the rage of media and stuff and how it's like easy to see. What about like watching a bad rage-filled movie on a plane? That's got to be like the ultimate, like combining a perfect storm.
Right. You just see a super hyper violent, you know, terrible movie and then you're just like even more mad. What the fuck am I watching? I don't know. I can't think of a shitty movie.
Someone's at the O'Hare terminal, like watching old Rush Limbaugh rage clips of Rush on YouTube, and then before they board their flight, and then they're channeling him right before they get on. You know.
Well, think about all the people that go to the airports and then they're forced to watch like CNN, and that is not their news of service, and they're like, I'm sitting here watching this propaganda in the fucking airport. Where's Tucker? God damn it! You know, like just super mad that they're being forced to watch this, and like it's only, you know, it's only their side, blah blah blah, and then you just get that fucking more anger, you know, more anger.
Let's try.
And then you have to watch some fucking liberal ass movie with Sandra Bullock. God damn it!
Right, that's what's so upsetting is you're going from the liberal media in the airport terminal.
Mm-hmm.
to maybe a conservative movie. Actually, that's not true. All media is liberal, pretty much, isn't it? I mean,
That's the problem.
It would have to be Tucker.
That's the problem.
Tucker-
All media is liberal.
Tucker in the terminal, Bullock in the plane. Okay, you got to go from one to the other.
Perfect.
Is there anything we should put a cap on for anger, internet anger? We should move on to the next.
All right, yeah, let's go.
We'll tie in. We're always gonna.
I'm just gonna say we'll circle back.
I mentioned affirmation. I previously mentioned brainwashing. In this very moment, in a lot of ways, I mentioned podcasts being a cult. You're being brainwashed and indoctrinated with our beliefs just because you're listening to them in incredible high quality.
How does it feel? Does it feel good? Feel dirty? Feel a little weird? Us in your brain right now?
You're seeing us happy as hell talking to you. You want to be happy as hell.
Yeah.
You know, you want someone to talk to you. I assume.
Hopefully.
No, but I was just thinking how we so often are like wiring ourselves constantly with our scrolling or the people we choose to follow, and we have like no control over this, or we have I guess put more accurately, we have very few tools to take the way our brain works and to put it in service of us. Let me give you one quick example and then we can bounce around here. I remembered recently that I had done really well on a couple tests in high school. Literally, I'm thinking about 2 different tests in high school, and I've only done this like 2 times for that because I use flashcards. I use index cards. Have you ever used flashcards to study for anything?
I believe so.
Okay, I'm mentioning doing it 2 times for high school. But I thought to myself, I did great on these tests, and because I used flashcards because I had to use flashcards for what was happening. And I'm 32 years old. I just recently realized, why aren't I studying for like the test of life? Or why aren't I using flashcards almost like the scrolling of your feed, like looking at like affirming a thing? Because when we're looking at a feed, you're just affirming whatever your current people you follow, you're affirming that over and over and over again, which if it's like making jokes about how much everything sucks, it's like kind of affirming how much everything sucks, right? Or if you're following a lot of liberal stuff that's just like shitting on Trump the whole time, like you're kind of affirming the concept of shitting on people the whole time. Anyway, I'm very new into this experiment where I just took a bunch of 3x5 index cards and I put things that I actually do believe this, and I believe this is key. You can't just like lie to yourself with affirmation. Right. That's like a huge
There has to be an underlying truth to them.
And I've been like reading up on it. It seems like you have to feel it too. Like it can't just be like, you know, you're the wrestling champion of the world. It can't just be like anything. You know, you can't just like make yourself something that's not real. It has to be rooted in reality, or more specifically, it has to be more rooted in something you actually feel. So I came up with like 20, 25 of these, and now I got maybe 30, 35.
Nice.
I'm going to keep adding and changing them over time. It's going to be a never-ending becoming type process.
It's like a mantra. People talk about mantras.
Exactly.
You know?
But I'm using index cards in lieu of like a mantra type thing. Let's hear it. What do you got to say?
No, you just blew my mind. I was on the same path with Instagram was what came to mind, and flashcards. And instead of flashcards, it's pictures. And you just scroll through the flashing flashcard of pictures, and you're, like you said, affirming, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I feel like what you're talking about too is like the idea of the bubbles that we create for ourselves, the internet bubbles. And the more we are in these bubbles, the more they affirm the feelings, or already feelings and things we already think. You know what I mean? We're just affirming things we already think. I think we need to open it up more and maybe take in things that we don't necessarily think of. I'm obsessed with my bubble, you know, my internet bubble. You know,
it's warm in there.
It's super warm.
It's warm in the bubble.
I'm always very conscious of it, or feeling where I'm like, wait, I need to look at something else because this is too affirming to me. This tells me what I want to hear. I follow a lot of conspiracy hashtags on Instagram, which gives me it doesn't affirm it. And sometimes it backfires, because then it just affirms the things I'm already thinking, because I'm like, oh, this is insane. And so it doesn't exactly work how I want it to work, you know, where I want to like experience what other people are thinking and feeling and maybe help it change my perspective. And oftentimes I just think, oh, that's fucking lunacy, and then get deeper into my own. But I want to be exposed to it at least.
I do too. So it starts off as a healthy thing. Like you're trying to round out your personality, or at least maybe stay empathetic to the thought processes that a lot of people have, right? To maybe conspiracy theories that on the surface seem ridiculous, of course, but that when you join the community, maybe start to feel more real.
Yeah, or like at least like help you understand why some of the cult or these things are happening, and then I can be like, okay, well, I don't agree with it, but I understand it, so now I can communicate with this, or I can kind of, right,
Do you use mantras or anything specific like that? Like
occasionally, and I feel like it works. It's usually during a situation. So I had that for the eulogy I did recently. I had a mantra for it because I was like, I wanted to like. I woke up and I was like, this is going to go good. This is going to go good. You're going to do good. Trying to visualize the situation. So when it was happening and I was in the moment, I didn't like lose control of it, right? Like I'd already visualized it. I had a mantra. Things were going to be positive. You were going to be brave. You weren't going to break down. You were going to get through this. And then it happened and the mantras I felt like were successful. You know what I mean? Like, but a lot of it is self-affirming and having those thoughts that like, you're going to do good. You're going to do good. It's going to be fine. And then it was, right? You have to put it out into the universe to make it a reality, I think, in some ways. And if you keep putting out negative shit's going to keep coming back at you, whether or not you're conscious of it, I think.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. That's a big key here is a lot of times these affirmations or mantras, it's like tuning your brain to the right kind of information, to the right info you need to be successful at the thing you need.
Vibrational frequencies. What frequency are you on? Where are you vibing at? Are you on the high end? Are you on the low end? Where's your...
You brought up two things that piqued my interest. One of them being the difference between focusing on the mistake and focusing on like performing well. I read this book, The Talent Code. I love Daniel Coyle, and there's another book like 50 Rules or 50 Tips for Increasing Your Talent, whatever. I remember them very specifically. One of them is like if you're a musician, not being like, don't fuck up the B flat. You want to actually think nail the B flat. There's like a world of difference between, even though it seems like the message is the same, like right. Don't fuck this note up and like nail this note, hit this note right. Because a lot of times if you're focused on the fuck up, you become a fuck up, right? In a very real way. And it seems so harmless because you're like, you think you're trying to do the right thing because you're like, yeah, I'm using the right intellectual information, but I'm imprinting it on my body and my subconscious in like an unhealthy way. Like
self-fulfilling prophecies.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Absolutely. So there's that. And then there's also, you mentioned the visualization.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, note cards, you could make them visual. I'm trying to like figure out how to do that exactly. But a lot of times it could be words, right? In mantras, a lot of times if you meditate or even you're saying like, this is going to go great, whatever. A big thing of it is visuals. Like we've been seeing before we've been talking.
Yeah.
And that sounds funny, but like we've had the ability to see, and we've used like pictures longer than we have had the ability to communicate at a high level, right?
Absolutely.
Of which this podcast is, of course, the highest level.
Highest of highs.
But you have to like create brain images, or at least use preconceived, pre-produced images.
Yeah.
For you to focus on, right? Do you we talked about like a social scroll, like the media thing. We talked about note cards, whatever, but like what else? There's other ways we affirm things, right? Like even saying I love you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is like the most common affirmation.
Right, yeah, like just between people, affirming between people,
yeah.
And having like a person helping you affirm. I think, again, reading, people put it on their mirrors. And you just read it every day. You go up there, you look at the note card, you read it every day, and it affirms you. I would do it at work with different things. I would just have, and it's like we're thinking of positive stuff, but just throughout your day of things you have to remember, you have like notes, and then like, oh, I got to make sure I do this thing. And then you find yourself doing the thing every day. You know what I mean? Because you see the note, the visual note that like gets stuck in your brain, and you reprogram it. You reprogram the brain,
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's doable. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes it's even unconscious that you're doing it.
Oh, so often you're living your life like unconsciously. And that's not a bad thing, assuming you're putting the right things into your brain. You know, a lot of times life shouldn't be so complicated that for every decision you're like, oh my God, what do I do for this? Like it should be pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Like you should be able to just respond. That's the reason I think we act from the subconscious.
Yeah.
Is because it would be horribly inefficient to have a lifestyle where you're constantly, mulling over every like small detail of something. Like you have to just kind of go with the picture you have in your brain already, Thinking about money. For some reason I was thinking about for affirmations with money.
Yeah.
Money's only valuable. This is, tied to the Bitcoin cult thing.
Yeah.
Money is only valuable when it has belief in it.
100%.
I love Yuval Noah Harari's definition of money, that you just think about money equals trust, because it's like, I trust this work will get done if I pay this plumber $200, whatever. More like $2,000.
That's America, there's so many things in that
But
right.
the money itself, like if you think about the graphics on money, they have like the Illuminati pyramid on there. Do you know what I mean? They have like
In God We Trust, which is a fairly recent addition, but yes.
They toss JC on there.
Yep.
No doubt. No, but they have the White House. Like, obviously they write the amount of money multiple times on there. Like, they don't just have like 100 one time on $100 bill. It's like on there multiple times, and even now it's on there in like orange. You're like, this is $100.
Multicolored.
You know what I mean? Some of that's logistic, whatever, but a huge part of that is definitely convincing not only the person with the money, but the person you're giving the money to, like, value. Yo, this is something. This is something, right? And just like saying it 5 times, like 100, 100, 100, 100, if you have to read every 100 on there.
A beautiful note. It's a note, right? Look at this beautiful note with this artistic value. It's like there's artistry involved in here. You know, it's
money
unbelievable.
has to be beautiful. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Coins. Look at coins. You know, crazy. I've never thought about that. And then think about it, like, because you go back further. Coins used to have, like, Roman coins used to have whoever the leader of the time was. Bam, this is the guy you got to trust. You're entrusting your thing into this guy, right? Like, that's a wild concept. And now it continues. You know, we have all the presidents, all of our famous presidents, on all of our money.
Yeah, and I mean, God, that's another great one. Like, it's almost like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like, is this person worthy of our trust, and that's why we put them on the money, or did they put themselves on the money?
Yeah.
And that's the reason we trust them? Because I know a lot of times that's like a classic dictator move, is just like, change all the money, put my name on every dollar bill, and then on some level you're associating value and wealth with the face.
You're affirming that these presidents are valuable, right? That, like, your history is valuable, right? That's what it is, right? Look at the trust you have in America is because of all these men, and look at the money you have now because of this situation. This is a wild conversation that I did not expect to get. Because this is
great.
Fascinating.
This is good shit.
This is fascinating.
How long till Elon gets on the money?
Oh my God. Well, I think it's interesting. They're trying to get rid of.
He is on the money. That's the joke. It's Bitcoin.
He is, right. Oh my God. Dogecoin. His face is gonna be on Doge. He's literally trying to make his own currency.
He is
Dogecoin.
a dog.
Yeah.
He is a dog.
Fucking dirty dog.
Dirty dog.
Harriet Tubman. They're trying to get Harriet Tubman on the money.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. But it's interesting because they're trying to change the message of the money, where it's like she would be a non-president. You know, everybody else on there is presidents. I think except for
And a man.
What was it?
And a man.
And a man, right?
A male.
A male, yeah, right. Because I was trying to think. I think Hamilton was on something. I think he's on the $2 bill, but he was never a president. But he was in charge of the Federal Reserve. He was the guy who invented, like, the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
But it's mostly presidents
and
it's
white,
mostly
of
white
course.
men, white men, right? So I think Harriet Tubman being on the 20 would be pretty great, right? That'd be a very interesting.
I want that to happen. Is it the 20 that they want to put her on?
Because they want to get rid of Jackson because of the Trail of Tears and he owned slaves.
Yeah,
and
fuck
all
yeah.
that
I mean, they
shit.
better use a good bill. You know what I mean? Don't put her on the $2 bill.
A popular in a lot of circulation.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really get rid of Ben Franklin because, you know, Franklin's, Benjamin's, you know, there's too much iconic, you know, $100 bills. Washington's on the dollar. Can't get rid of him on the dollar, right? $5 I think is Lincoln, right? So then the next logical one is the 20, which is in a lot of circulated 20s, and it's Andrew Jackson. And I like Andrew Jackson. I understand he did a lot of fucking terrible things, but, like, he wasn't a bad president. You know, I read American Lion by John Meacham, great book. But again, he did terrible things, and I get, like, the idea that we want to cancel all of these former people, but whatever. I still think she would be a great representation to be on the $20 bill.
Hell
you know?
yeah.
I still think that's a great idea.
We need to rewire our brains.
Yes,
with the right people.
That's exactly what we're going for.
Exactly.
Sacagawea on the dollar coin. Remember the dollar coin? They put Sacagawea on the dollar coin.
That's right.
But it's like,
But that was like more like the $2 bill. It's like,
yeah,
give me a fucking
nobody
break.
really
No one's
uses
gonna-
dollar coins.
No one's
you
gonna
know?
carry coins.
They were trying to make dollar coins a thing, and it never really happened.
It turns out they weren't like too far off with the whole phenomenon of golden coins, but it came 20 years later in the form of Bitcoin.
Bitcoins, yeah, right. Can you mint me a Bitcoin in real life? Yeah,
Hey, speaking of affirmations and like making money look valuable, the Bitcoin logo, it's gold.
Yeah, right.
It uses the gold that we currently use as like an inflation hedge, whatever. It's still tapping into the same thought process
Right.
and feeling you have for monetary value with
you
the
have
graphics.
to, right. In order for you to trust Bitcoin, you have to take some of those feelings that you have of regular money and transfer them into that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We got our last time here. You want to
Oh my gosh.
give us the
wow.
last one?
The real metaverse, right? Which I think kind of ties a lot of this things together. This idea of this like real metaverse. Okay, so it's like the idea that like, okay, so here's my thought process behind the metaverse.
Give it to the camera.
Metaverse. Okay, so you have
Give it
like
to 'em straight on.
you have your reality of like you as a person. There's your reality, and then there's like your internet reality. Again, your bubble that you have, that kind of, you know, whatever you've created online for yourself, right? And I think a lot of people take that reality and kind of dismiss their real reality that they're currently living because the internet one is either more attractive, it affirms more of the things that you believe in, it's your church, whatever that is on the internet, and then you take it and make that your reality. And then on top of that, there is the actual reality that we all live and that we all share, right?
God, this is so good.
And
yeah.
they're all different. There's all different realities, right? They're all different moments of realness and everything, right? And I think it's super interesting how we're like blending all of these, you know, and how back in the day there was just, I would say maybe two or one reality. You know, you go back 100 years, 150 years, and you just had your reality. You listened to the news, but it wasn't, you know, your day-to-day was your day-to-day. There wasn't this other world that you were like invested your time in and all that stuff, and like seeing other people's feelings about things. You know what I mean? I think it's just absolutely wild. And then now you see Zuckerberg trying to create this like new reality of, you know what I'm saying?
But it already exists. You're
Yes.
bringing up something so important that he's trying to act like the metaverse is a thing that they're going to go into, whatever. But it's already well established.
Super established.
It's already well established. The second there was like basically any form of the internet, it was extremely obvious. But you could even argue radio, television, some of
Absolutely.
these other forms that basically have funneled into social media and now future metaverse, that those were forms of the metaverse, right?
Absolutely.
Because maybe Truman's giving a speech through the radio. It's reverberating through speakers all across the country, maybe across the world. That's the metaverse.
Yep. Absolutely.
And we're so far, we're multiple generations into the metaverse already, not just like 1 month into Facebook's name change to the metaverse.
Yeah, that's the thing. And even Facebook, when it was created, you know what I mean? That it's, I don't know. I just think it's so interesting how what it's become, what Facebook has become, and how much control and how much. I remember getting on Facebook, being one of the first couple million users, and actually I was probably in the first million users of Facebook, if I'm perfectly honest.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. I really don't know. But it was cool. It was cool, like, because we were in college. It was this whole college phase, and it was like MySpace, right? Remember, there was MySpace, right?
Yeah.
Which again,
Zanga.
Zanga. In MySpace, you literally created your own reality. That page was your reality. You could have a music on it. If you knew HTML, you could make crazy all sorts of designs on it, right? It was fully customizable. People nowadays would love MySpace because of all the things you could do to it. It wasn't so locked down. But anyways, MySpace, and then this thing, Facebook, came out, and it was all about being invited into it. You couldn't just get on Facebook. You had to be invited. You had to have a college email address. So it was a secret club, right? It was like a club to get into.
Almost like a religion, almost like a
Church.
parish.
And you were part of the Facebook group, and then there were cool groups, and that was how you socialized in college. And there wasn't your relatives weren't on there spouting fucking bullshit. You know, it was just you, and you guys were like making plans, and then the slow creep of it becoming a separate reality. You know what I mean? It used to facilitate your reality. You know, it used to be help you with your social life and all that stuff. And then eventually it slowly turned where it became your social life and it became your reality.
I love that you brought up the slow creep element, because I feel like that's of huge importance. Because a lot of times you talk about this stuff, it seems so calculated. And that's not really getting at the emotional heart of what's going on, because it happens naturally. It does happen naturally. I have a great example just here. The background for this podcast, I basically had this in my living room for 5 years. I had, back in Logan Square, I had like I had an extra television that I could not do anything with. It didn't have like a normal stand, so I either had to like wall mount it, which is really tough when you're apartment living, or I had thought of having an idea. I like laid it on the ground and then like surrounded it with plants and then put plants on top of it, whatnot. So anyway, I bring this up because I've creeped from having like this thing be my genuine interest in like what's just in my life on a day-to-day basis, something I want to look at, and now having this basically be my like room and life on YouTube or the metaverse or whatever you want to call it, whatever it's going to be. It's happened very slowly.
It has permeated your virtual reality.
And it's genuine. It's natural.
Yeah.
Like I don't have this here just because I think you all think it looks cool. To me, this is the coolest shit in the world. I want to fucking look at this, which is why I have this.
Yes.
And I think that's what ends up happening is a lot of people create things for themselves, and then other people do connect with these tools, and it becomes a new reality, but digitally.
Yep. Taking that a step further, it's minority. Yeah, like your minority feeling, right? So like generally in like real world, it's majority rules, but on the internet, minorities can rule, right? And I'm not talking like racial minorities. I'm talking like, oh, your niche feelings about plants. I love fucking plants. Plants are my life. Oh, cool. I'm also really into plants. And like that like little group of like 4 or 5 of you becomes 10 or 20. And it turns out there's like 100,000 of you guys that are really fucking into plants. And all of a sudden that one person has got 100,000 people and they're from everywhere, right? And then their reality becomes plants, right? It's not a thing that we would have had, again, 150 years ago. You would have just been to plants. You would have been the plant guy, and it would have been fine, and like maybe you would have ebbed and flowed. But now you can inundate yourself with other plant people and other plant feelings and other people doing their plants. Oh, I want to do my plants like that guy does their plants, you know?
I love the way you described that because it reminded me of how I feel specifically about plants, because I think I've lost something with my love for plants because it's taken on its own life on Instagram, you know, like being like a plant boy is like a whole thing now. And it kind of is upsetting, you know, because a lot of times we go for, I'm back to being American, whatever. I'm like probably searching for individuality, right? Or some sense of control or a self in a big world, a big, busy world.
1000%.
And then everyone gets into plants, or it becomes a subculture.
Yeah.
If you even want to use the word sub, it becomes part of a culture.
Yeah.
It's one of the fabrics in the cultural tapestry. But for me, that like changed it because I wasn't always just looking to be a part of like a plant gang necessarily. You know, for me, it was more about my own inquisitive nature. And, you know, there were some elements I do love plants because it does cross different like language barriers and generational barriers, and I think there is a lot of power to that connection. I think that is part of why, of course, so many people have gotten into plants. But it does feel like it has changed over time.
I think plants are also fundamental, like a fundamentally human thing. Growing things, plants, you know what I mean?
It's a building block.
I think that's a fundamental human feeling is growing and like getting back into the soil. I think that's human, it's like a natural human urge, you know. So I think plants are like a good thing, you know what I mean? I think it's a good thing. But I could see how like, you know, making part of that your identity and then seeing all these other people making it part of their identity, you know. It's like hipsters, being a hipster, you know. Game of Thrones. I was into Game of Thrones like 7-8 years before the show came out, you know, talking about those books. And then all of a sudden they started getting popular. And I'm like, you fucking guys, like, you know, I was already in on this. You know what I mean? And then I kind of like let it go. That reality, I did not want to be a part of that culture, that reality anymore, you know, because it wasn't unique. There wasn't a small group of us. It became like the majority. The majority was into this thing. You know what I mean? It's not as entertaining for me. It's fucking my metaverse up.
Can I drop a Kanye quote on you?
Of course
about
you can.
Hipsterdom? I heard Kanye say once that not listening to mainstream music is hipster justification of failure. I was just desperate to bring up
Kanye again?
the verse of Kanye West.
There's something to be said about that.
In some way
there's something to be said about
with
that.
this conversation. No, but it's funny when, things get big or things end up maybe seeming more amplified in what we call the metaverse than they are in real life.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those for a second,
Sure.
maybe. Things that seem really common online, but maybe aren't that common in real life.
Fights. Back to fighting,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's a thing that isn't really common. I don't think I've been in a couple of fights, but no like big knockout, drag out outside of a bar at 4 a.m. fights
No.
where somebody gets knocked out, hits their head on the concrete and fucking dies. Never been in a fight like that. But if you go online, that's happening. It seems like it's happening every hour on the hour, every day, you know, that there's a thing, that there's a new fight, there's a new sort of, you know, something, right? But
Yeah.
I that's not necessarily reality, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got to be hugely overrepresented. Again, I mentioned you can only die once yourself, and you can only have so many loved ones that pass away, but you could sort of watch infinite people die online, which is really scary. I mean, I don't want to live a life where like things are censored, right? I don't want this stuff to like be held from us. But yeah, because it's moved so fast, we found ourselves in a position where the ratios just might be a little too fucked up. You know what I mean? You might want 75% good, positive, focus on where you're going, where you want to be.
Yes.
And then maybe take the 25%, probably even less, maybe 10% on the traps and the pitfalls you want to avoid.
It's interesting. I'm definitely not a censorship kind of guy. Really don't like censorship. But at the same time, there's a part of me that wants, and maybe it's because I now have kids and they're not really internet edge yet, but I know they're getting there. And
God, yeah.
I know the things that I've seen on the internet, you can't take them back. You know, once you see a thing, you can't take it back. You know, I remember the first person I saw die in a video, and he shot himself in the head, and I'll just forever have that ingrained in my brain.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not that I want censorship, but it's like I want another wall of something of protection. But at the same time, it's a slippery slope. You know what I mean? It's a slippery slope of like who's in charge of the censoring and what is deemed, you know, appropriate and not appropriate, and who are making these determinations. You know what I mean? But
it's funny to be talking about this right when YouTube removed the dislike button, because we kind of have lost a tool in a lot of ways. I know that's why a lot of people are pissed about that. Like, how do I know what to avoid?
Right.
Like, I don't want the internet to be built where thumbs up and thumbs down get like equal importance, because then it's like that's how you should feel, right? A lot of people talk about the internet has encouraged a love it or hate it mentality about everything, which I think also isn't quite right.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons also YouTube used to use percentages, like what percent up versus down is this? So even if there were big numbers on the dislike, there could be thousands of people that dislike a video. It's possible that it was only maybe 2% of the overall votes.
Yes, of the billion people that watched it, right?
Which, if you're going to live like one of those lives where you spend like 90% of your time focused on the solutions to life and only 10% of the time on the problems, you could just like filter videos that are 10% and lower dislike.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we've lost that. So now we're like losing even more tools for this.
Exactly. It was a filter. It was another filter to avoid things that, you know, you didn't want to see, and now you're limiting your ability to control your bubble even further, right? I feel like that's exactly what it is. Like if you want to have some kind of control over your bubble or over your metaverse, you no longer have that, you know.
I mean, I don't know what people can do, you know, outside of course subscribing to the Neverending Becoming and liking this video promptly. What people could do online.
I don't know if we've ever said like and subscribe on this channel ever.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm trying to take this a little bit more seriously, or
Sure.
at least, let me rephrase. I'm trying to make sure that I'm trying to make these videos good in
Quality.
a way.
Quality.
Or at least, let me rephrase it again. I feel like I was focused on authenticity so much the last, like, literally couple years
Yeah.
that it's, like, blinded me to some of the things that just make sense.
Right.
Like reminding people, if you've listened to this for an hour or are listening at the 60-minute mark,
Yeah.
which we are now at,
Right. I just glanced at that.
and you haven't maybe dug deeper into our world, that maybe we're going to be part of your 90% solution.
You
here.
should, right? Check us out. We got a lot of videos, you know?
And I thought about that like years ago with Instagram too, because I remember when the Glenn Greenwald like revelations with Edward Snowden came out, and how we were all like reminded, oh yeah, anything you put on the internet is there forever. It kind of made me not want to post anything ever again. But in a lot of ways, the lurkers on social media and the lurkers online are the most selfish people, because they're just constantly taking and they're never giving their good ideas and their good things. Hey, we got a lot of episodes with you now, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. I guess not anymore. I was like, I'm a total internet lurker, but ultimately we've put out some content now, so I can't really say that.
But at a certain
I've
point,
contributed to the internet in some ways.
if you're not using the hashtags, if you're not reminding people to go after the good, I mean, you're not being part of the solution.
We're just media. We're not social media. And we want to be social media, I guess? I don't know. I don't really.
I mean, look, one of the reasons I haven't used the whole like and subscribe shit a lot the last couple of years, my first couple years long of doing this, of like posting regularly to YouTube, is because like I don't like necessarily appreciate that myself.
Right.
And I feel like I still don't, like that's not part of it. But you know, like
It feels inauthentic.
like anything, the ratios can get a little out of whack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can get a little bit too indie hipster justification of failure-y by, say, never sharing your videos like I've done.
Yeah. But you want to be real. You want to give a real product. You don't want to be disingenuous or fake or see somebody else's stuff, right? And I
Yeah.
get that. You want to be your own thing. And that's and part of that is not doing what everybody else does in the like and subscribe and having like a fucking silly graphic pop up and silly, you know what I mean? Like you've maintained your own vibe, and then that vibe is always evolving, right? So now we're like, oh, well, we want to change this up. We want to evolve. That is, I think, was what's important, is the evolving nature of it, you know?
Join us next time on the Always Evolving,
Never-ending, evolving, becoming.
sister show of the Never-ending Becoming. No, Matt, thanks for talking to me, though.
Cool, yeah, that was a quick hour, dude.
We're just going to have to do this again soon.
I guess so.
Yeah, all right, bye, everyone.
Peace.